Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Ask Jimmy Smith. Today, I'm excited to be doing the video for, I guess it's video number 3 out of a series of videos on opening wholesale accounts and specifically taking your arbitrage products and turning them into wholesale accounts for your Amazon FBA business. Today's video is going to be on how to open wholesale accounts for Amazon FBA and specifically what you should say when you're reaching out, or at least what I say whenever I reach out to open a wholesale account. If you've watched the first 2 videos of the series, that will be extremely helpful. If you haven't, I recommend going back, checking out the playlist on this channel, going back and watching those first 2 videos because they build on top of each other. Now, if you skipped the second video because you are brand new to Amazon and you don't need that second video, that's totally fine. This one is going to start with how do you reach out to wholesale accounts and brands, etc., to open these accounts. Now, if you did watch the second video, you'll know that I said, hey, keep it simple. And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. My simple approach to opening a wholesale account and what you should be saying to get those for your Amazon business. Now, also, I'm going to be doing more videos in the series. So again, check out the playlist. If this series has been up for a while, there may be more videos after this on handling objections, extra tips, exclusives, etc. But ultimately, this is the 3rd video in the series. So what do you say to open a wholesale account? Again, you want to keep this simple. And so what we do is we start with an email. Now, if you can make it personal to the brand, that's better. It's not just a copy and paste email. You do not want to be sending out, hey, I loved your product. Please send me your price list, etc. You actually want to mention the brand name, maybe a couple products if you can. You want to make it more personal. The reason is because there's so many wholesale courses. Almost every wholesale course out there gives you templates to use. Yes, I'm going to be showing you a template that I use, but you still want to tailor it to the brand for the best results. Now, many people will say, well, it's better just to send 100 cold emails, get 1 or 2 accounts, and you're good to go from there. You don't need to make it personal. You just want to send out a mass amount of emails. However, I have found that I get a much, much better response rate if I'm able to tailor it to their products, if I'm able to specifically tell them why I'm interested in their products. And ultimately, this is what I'm going to recommend that you do, that you take whatever little template I'm about to give you and that you tailor it to people's products. I start with email. I don't start with phone. However, you will get a better result many times with picking up the phone and utilizing a similar template to this email template to talk to the right people. But ultimately, I like to start with email because it can be the simplest way to go. So here's what we say. Obviously, hello. My company is located in this city or state. I'm interested in purchasing whatever it is on a wholesale basis. You can mention a particular product. I don't recommend copying and pasting an ASIN from Amazon, but you can mention the type of product that you're looking to buy on a wholesale basis. You can add in there, what information do you need from me? Or do you have price discounts for large orders? And then obviously, thank you, first and last name. So let's break this down real quick and why I keep it this short and sweet. A lot of emails. So I've worked with exclusive relationships with wholesale or with brands in the past. I still do. And what we see a lot of times, they'll forward me the emails that all of you sellers out there are sending them because naturally you are, the brands I work with, they get these emails every day and they hate them. And the reason they hate them is because they're typically the same. They're templates. They don't mention the brand. They don't mention anything. They're typically from a sketchy website that doesn't make any sense as to how it would help their brand or why they should be selling the product anyway. And it's just going to be something that is way too lengthy because many wholesale sellers will write paragraphs of information saying that they sell on e-commerce platforms. They specialize in it. They can help with X, Y, and Z. They can do all of these different things. I have seen those templates and I personally do not like them because as a business owner, I open that. I see it's a stock email that mentions nothing about my brand. And I see that they're talking about being specialists on Amazon like everyone else claims to be. I would just delete that right away. I may not even open it. But what I like to do is keep them short and sweet because in my eyes, if I am a store owner, and I want to buy a product from a brand, I don't have to go there and give them all this information about my retail store. I just want to say, hey, I'm interested in selling your product in my retail store, offline. Let's just pretend for a second. This is where I'm located. This is what we're interested in buying. What do you need from me? That typically has gotten me a much better response. Now, your mileage may vary. Try different things. Don't just copy and paste this, please. You want to tailor it to the brand. You can say things like, "Hello, I know my customers love your product," which is true. If you followed this series, you're doing this because your arbitrage sales have gone so well, and you know your customers are buying this. So you can say, "Hey, my customers love your product. I'd like to fully stock it on a wholesale basis. What information do you need from me? Do you have price discounts for large orders?" Let's talk about that for a second. Why do I have those questions in there? Because each company is different. What information do you need from me? I like to ask that because they might need a bunch of information, or they might just need one or two things. I personally don't like to suggest the information they should ask for from me. Like, "Hey, do you need my tax resale certificate? Do you need a credit application? Do you need references? Do you need this?" Because I don't want to put ideas into their head. I want them to tell me what they need from me. Again, change it up, see what works better for you, test out a bunch of different templates or designs of an email and see what works for you. But for me, I like to keep it basic. The next thing is, do you have price discounts for large orders? I love to ask that question. A lot of sellers actually do ask questions similar to this in their emails, but I like to ask it because to me, it does show that I am interested in large orders, right? So if I'm a brand that's receiving this email, I'm seeing, oh, this person is so interested in my product that they may be willing to place a large enough order that I give them price breaks or I give them free shipping discounts, etc. And so to me, it kind of positions me as a bigger buyer, so to speak, in their eyes. Versus if I didn't ask that question, they may just look at me as another account. But ultimately, you can see it's very short, it's very sweet. It is saying, these are the facts. I'm here. I want to purchase this. What do you need from me? And do you have discounts for these massive orders? Thank you, first, last name, contact information, whatever you want to put, that is up to you. That's what I start with. Now, whenever you start with an email like this, typically it's a little bit of a longer email process than if you were to start with all of your information out the gate. There's a bunch of different ways you can test it, but if you wanted to be one of those sellers that did multiple paragraphs that talked about your Amazon expertise and what you can do for the brand, if they respond happily and they want to work with you, then that's a much better lead than somebody that responds to my basic email. But ultimately, it's up to you. Test out a bunch of different things. This is my basics of what I like to use to get a response from them, to open up a dialogue and a conversation of what they're needing from me to move forward. Now, what do you do after that? You want to keep reaching out to other brands that you're interested in. You don't want to just start with one and stop. You do want to send multiple emails a week. Many companies or wholesale courses recommend 100 a week. Personally, I don't really care if you put a number on it until you are comfortable with this, because if you reach out to 100 and you get 10 or 15 of them, which is a really high amount, but if you were to get that, then you may be overwhelmed. So I just recommend reaching out to a set amount a day. Maybe you choose you want to reach to 5 a day, 10 a day, 20 a day, whatever fits your schedule, but reach out the other brands you're interested in based on the other videos I did in this series of how do you figure out which products you should be purchasing from your arbitrage business and turning into wholesale accounts. So keep reaching out to the other brands. It can be a waiting game for sure. Sometimes they'll respond within 24 hours. Sometimes they'll respond in 2 weeks. And so you want to have a follow-up plan moving forward. So if you don't hear back within a week, you want to call them and say the same thing that was in that email. So I'm going to go back a few bullet points. You want to call them and say, "Hey, whoever I'm talking to, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm interested in purchasing, your whatever product on a wholesale basis. Who do I need to talk to?" And then they'll direct you to that person that you need to talk to. And you'll say, "Hey, I'm located in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm interested in purchasing this on a wholesale basis. Wanted to know what you needed from me to open an account and if you have any price breaks on large orders." It's a very simple phone script as well as an email script. I love it. It's not combative. It's not too much. It's not too little. I think that it's a perfect amount for who I am. You may be very different. So tailor the things to your cadence, tailor the things to what you want to send out. But ultimately, that's what I like to use if I'm picking up the phone after a week of not hearing back. Again, for me, I like to start with email first, then I call later. Many people, you might want to reverse that. Maybe call first and email later, whatever you feel best with. Now, here's the next thing, and I will have a whole separate video, so I'm probably going to cover this again a little bit in a separate video, but it's going to be on objections that you can get from wholesale accounts, brands, distributors, etc. The first objection that it might be, and this isn't really an objection up front, but it's a question that is, to me, framed as an objection to working with me, is if they ask you if you sell on Amazon, what do you do? You want to be honest. That is the first and foremost thing, in my opinion, because if you start out your relationship and say, no, I don't sell on Amazon, just give me the account, then it's going to be a big problem for you in the future because they'll figure it out eventually. So, what I recommend is that many times you can turn it into a positive conversation. That's what I'm going to be going into a much bigger deep dive with objections in the future video. But you can take this question if they say, hey, do you sell on Amazon or other third-party marketplaces, e-commerce platforms? You can turn it into a positive conversation because typically they're asking you that question because they want to say, oh, we don't open accounts with new Amazon sellers. If they don't care if you sell on Amazon, then why are they asking you the question? So here's how I recommend turning it into a positive conversation. And you want to be prepared with this and know their listings before you actually call them. So you want to say something like, hey, actually, that's why I was calling you today. It was one of the reasons I was calling you today. We typically will only purchase from vendors that have 3 or less sellers on a listing. And I noticed that right now you have 5 or you have 10 or you have 12 or you have whatever. Is that something you're trying to get a better handle on? Now, if they already only have 1 or 2 sellers on a listing, it's going to be very difficult for you to get the account anyway to sell on Amazon because more than likely it's an exclusive relationship, depending on the Keepa graph. So you need to know that. It's not always the case, but depending on the graph. But if they are having a problem with Amazon, they're trying to limit their amount of sellers on Amazon, they're going to ask that question and you can make it positive and just say, actually, that was one of the reasons I was going to call, or I was calling you. I wanted to ask you this. Hey, we typically only purchase from vendors with 3 or less sellers, and you have 6 right now, which is concerning for me. Is that something you're trying to get a better handle on? And then many times they're going to be stopped in their tracks because I don't believe that they hear that all the time. Now, if people see this video and it gets really, blows up or something, a lot of people start using it, they're going to get used to that. But you want to turn this conversation into something that is much more positive, that maybe they'd say, actually, yes, we are trying to get a better handle on it. You can say, okay, well, what are you doing to get a better handle on that? And then you kind of are coming at it from a position of authority to a certain extent. If they say we're working with a partner to reduce that, you can ask more questions. Say, oh, how long have you been working with them? Who is it? How has that relationship been going? Right? You can have a conversation. This is not a high pressure thing. You're just trying to find out information. They just started with the company. You could say, well, hey, I'm happy to help. If you want to work with me on that, I can work with the company. Or if they've been doing this for a while and aren't seeing success, then you can say, hey, I've noticed you haven't had success. I've got people that I can talk to help with getting the seller issue under control. That's up to you. But ultimately, this is how you can spin it into a positive conversation that may turn into an exclusive or semi-exclusive relationship as you move forward with it. Many times they're still going to say, no, we're good, don't want to deal with you, and they'll hang up. And that's fine. Move on to the next one. This isn't a hard and fast rule that works every time, but it is a good way to take that conversation and spin it into something that may actually become a better opportunity for you moving forward. Continuing on, what should you do there? If they turn you down, that's common. I recommend contacting them again in 6 months. Things can change. Personnel can change. Ultimately, maybe they have a bigger issue with Amazon sellers coming on the listing and tanking their prices, ruining their brand reputation. And so you want to be able to contact them regularly, put them into some sort of customer relationship like software, CRM software, like I think HubSpot would be one that's free up front, or just put it in your calendar to contact them again. The bigger the brands are, the more likely you are to get turned down. And usually the numbers I've heard from every wholesale course is 2 or 3 for every 100 reach outs with these bigger brands that are getting contacted all the time. If you're dealing with local brands or regional brands, you might have a much higher success rate, maybe 5-10% of the time or higher, depending on what you do. And so I believe for me, it's roughly about 10% because we cherry pick the ones that we want to reach out to, if I remember right. I don't have that specific statistic broken down, but it is a much higher likelihood than 2 or 3 out of every 100 because we are very specific in where we reach out. Now, if you focus on the local and niche products, you will get better results, as I just mentioned, and tailoring your approach to each brand versus blasting out emails also gets better results. And so if you are using the template that I mentioned at the beginning of this video and you're tailoring it to the specific products that they sell, you're creating a relationship with them. You're talking about their brand specifically. Maybe you know a little bit about the person that you're reaching out to because it's such a small company that does well on Amazon. But you can reach out to the owner and say, hey, I saw this. You're a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals or whatever. So am I. Would love to sell your products. whatever it might be. If you can tailor your approach, you have much better results. That's just natural sales, right? That's how to win friends and influence people 101, right? Tailor your approach to them, be specific to them, and you'll get better results from a sales perspective than if you're just blasting out cold emails that are not tailored to the brands and the distributors specifically. Now, if they say yes, place an order, pretty obvious. Make sure to get them your retailer certificate or your reselling certificate and any information that they require as soon as possible. You don't want a bunch of downtime. You want to get that to them very quickly. And the next thing that you want to do is check out the next video that I'm going to be making on handling the most common objections when reaching out for wholesale accounts. So those are the things that you do. If you're creating ultimately your email that you want to send to a company, that's how you contact them through email. That's how you contact them through phone. That's how you handle the most common objection, which is, hey, do you sell on Amazon? And then ultimately, if you've got the place where you can place an order, get them any information they need, take a look at their price list, all the information that they send you, and place the order for the best product using the Replens methods that I teach on this channel, multi-packs, bundles, straight up UPC matches, and things that also are structured in a different way on Amazon. But if you're interested in the next video or the prior videos, check out the playlist in my channel for wholesale accounts. And this is where you're going to find all the information for this particular series. So if you would please comment below, let me know your thoughts on this series so far. If you want me to cover anything else specifically, I will be going through objections, exclusives, some extra tips in this series. But if you want to see something else, please comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this video, what you'd like to see moving forward, not just for wholesale, but also arbitrage, even private label. If you want to see me talk a little bit about my private label methods, which isn't a huge piece of my business, but it is something I can discuss with you. And then also like this video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.